This is Andy Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. I'm delighted to be joined by Adam Smith over Zoom. Adam, first and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm tired after a long night of boxing. Not only obviously our show in Peterborough that went on very late because of various issues with ambulances and delays and obviously health and safety paramount, but it was a long night in Peterborough, a dramatic night, obviously. And then by the time I got home, it was ready to obviously watch Lomachenko and Lopez, which was quite something as well. So yeah, plenty to talk about.
There certainly is, Adam. Let's start off with the Peterborough show, headlined by Lewis Ritson and his victory over Miguel Vazquez. Certainly a controversial one, to say the least, Adam. Obviously, yourself and Matthew both saw the same fight that many did, and certainly looking at social media, that Miguel Vazquez seemed to had done more than enough to be victorious on the night. What were your thoughts first? What were your thoughts first and foremost on the cards, and obviously Lewis being crowned victorious?
I thought the card was a great card. I thought there was terrific action. There was upsets, knockdowns, quality boxing. I mean, Ellie Scottney, I think, looks a fantastic prospect for the future. I thought she boxed brilliantly against a very rugged Beck Connolly. That was a great starter. Kane Baker was, you've got to love him, haven't you? His attitude's just spot on. You know, he's bubble wrap now, isn't he? He's just always with us. And, it was a good little fight that against Tony Belliew's charge, that he's helping in Shakespeare, and that was, a good action fight. You had Martin Patrick Ward in another good one with Asomba. I thought Asomba maybe unlucky not to get that, but that was a draw. Then obviously the Joe Laws Charlton scrap was fantastic entertainment. Joe obviously came undone, but all credit to Norwich's Ryland Charlton, the pint-sized powerhouse. What a great nickname, and what a terrific story. He takes his opportunity, and I think that's what Eddie and Matchroom and we're all trying to get is, competitive matches at whatever level, and saying, look, there are many chances here for fighters. If you want to take that risk, if you want to throw your name in the hat, or you want to roll the dice, then you can get in, and you might come away with, look at him afterwards asking Eddie for a deal and all that. It's a great story. So, yeah, look, I mean, it was fantastic. I thought the Southpaw battle was interesting. Kez Ashfaq and Mark Leach. Leach, what an amazing life he has, 24/7. He's a warehouse worker. He looks after 4 kids and somehow manages to train with Jamie and Nigel. And Kez Ashfaq, we've known for a long time, lovely guy, talented fighter, very good amateur. But I think maybe he just sort of slightly overconfident against a former sparring partner, thought he'd be too big and too good. And he got in a rhythm, Leach, didn't he? As Matt kept saying, the upper body movement, the judgment of distance. I thought he boxed a beautiful fight. And I was very impressed with Leach, and Leach rightfully got it. And then, of course, what we had before that, we had the gap with the ambulances. So obviously, you and I know that ambulances have got to be there for every single fight. There's, the safety and the paramedics absolutely essential. But of course, you had Ward's cut eye, and you had Joe Laws going to hospital just for a precaution, just to have a look at him. And then you had 2 ambulances away from the venue. So we had a big gap, which was obviously, very difficult for everybody, because you want to get on, towards the main event. You don't want to get the main event on too late. But, it was out of our hands. So, we have to abide by everything. And then we got to the main event, really excited about that. And look, for me, Miguel Vazquez should have won the fight. I thought that, Lewis Ritson tried. He got to the center ring. He was using his jab. I thought he won the first round. He won the last. There's maybe argument that he could have won 3 or 4, but there's no question in my head, in my mind, that Miguel Vazquez should have walked out that ring a winner. I mean, Matt scored it wide. A lot of people I've spoken to scored it wide. Caught up with Dave Colwell this morning, other people I really respect in the business, and everybody's saying it's an outrageous decision. And look, it is subjective. We always get different scores that you think, oh, have I seen that right, or whatever. But the pattern of the fight was pretty simple for me. Vazquez was on the back foot. Okay, should you score for fighters coming forward? No, you shouldn't just score for aggression if they're not landing punches. Some of them Lewis did catch on the elbows, on the gloves. He looked pretty calm during the fight, Lewis Ritson, and certainly the corner did. So they obviously thought he was fine, during it. I just don't think there was that urgency. I think after 4 or 5 rounds, he needed to try and trap Vazquez in the corners, unload some combinations, back him up, make him uncomfortable, make him feel his 33 years of age, make him feel that 52nd fight veteran that he is. But, you know, Vasquez was always going to be a tricky customer. And I think many of us felt the timing would be right for Ritson because of the age, because of the fact that, you know, Vasquez is a long time since he was ruling the world as a lightweight champion. But, you know, styles make fights. And I just think he had trouble with the style. And for me, Vasquez, yeah, it wasn't that pretty, but it was pretty effective, wasn't it? I mean, he was, you know, outboxing him at times. And I thought that he landed more. I thought that he was in control of the fight, the pattern. You know, it just left a bitter taste in the mouth to me. You know, Lewis Ritson's a great guy, and he's a fantastic advocate for the Northeast. We love going to see him, watch him up there. He was brilliant when he was British lightweight champion, you know, and he struggled a bit at European level. And, you know, he found the style complicated last night. You know, I'm sure he'll be a lot better against someone who's going to stand in front of him. You know, he's had a really good win over Robbie Davis. You know, he just had a bad night at the office, I thought. And I think that you've got to give Miguel Vasquez credit. You've got to say Miguel Vasquez, as I said, in our opinion, we're not the judges, the three judges scoring it. Terry O'Connor's, you know, 117, 111 to me was unbelievably out. I just didn't see that at all. You know, if you say, okay, a couple of rounds here and there, then maybe it gets closer. Yeah, sure. But, you know, Eddie Hearn, I was swapping messages with Eddie, obviously, last night, today. And, you know, he's his promoter. You know, he says Vasquez won the fight. I mean, how much clearer do you need to be? And, you know, it's subjective. You put it in the hands of the judges. I thought one of the judges for the Lopez and Loma fight was too wide as well last night. But, you know, they got the right guy. Lopez won the fight and they got the right winner. I don't think they got the right winner yesterday. I think Lewis might argue, Neil might argue. There might be others that argue that thought Ritson either got the nod or it was a lot closer. But in my opinion, and it's not our opinion that counts, it's the judges. That's what the rules are. But, you know, we call what we see. You know, you've asked me questions before about, you know, is there a bias towards matchroom fighters? Is there a bias? Absolutely not. When we pick up the microphone, we call it as we see it. Do I always agree with Matt? No. So I think he maybe had it slightly too wide, possibly last night, but no question that Miguel Vasquez, for me, won that fight last night. And he got robbed, and he should have gone back to Mexico, you know, with a really good win. And that's nothing against Lewis Ritson. You know, Ritson will come again. He's 27. Another defeat doesn't do any harm. The style was wrong for him, but he gets the win. He's a lucky boy today. He gets the win, and maybe when he watches it back, he'll realise. I don't think there was a lot in some of the rounds, but I just think the pattern and the volume and you know, who looked the winner, Andy, round after round. You know, if you're scoring for scoring punches, more landed from Miguel Vasquez. He looked in control. He looked like he could do that all night. He looked like he could do that all today as well. And that's, again, nothing against Ritson. But for me, Vasquez won the fight. What did you think?
I was of the same opinion as you, Adam. I had Miguel Vasquez comfortably winning last night the same way that I know a lot of people did. I was shocked by the scorecards, which kind of leads on to my next question. I'm sure you've seen what's been circulating on social media with regards to Terry O'Connor and a photo of him supposedly looking at a phone. If that's obviously deemed to be the case, this is obviously going on during the fight between Ritson and Vasquez. If that's deemed to be the case, what do you make of that?
Well, it's a very difficult one, isn't it? It's obviously it's no good if you're looking at a phone and not looking at the action. I don't know I'm not in the board. I'm not, you know, I haven't spoken to Terry. You know, Terry's a good guy. You know, we always chat, you know, at ringside and stuff. You know, this is a consideration for the British board. This is a consideration for, you know, for governing bodies. You know, that's why we have officials. I don't know. I mean, you know, Terry will obviously be asked about that. And I don't know why he would have a phone in his hand when he's judging, whether he writes the scores down on his phone. I don't know. I mean, you're meant to write them on a card. You hand the paper in, you know, that's it, round after round. Those are the rules. But you've got to remember as well that as commentators, we are set considerably back from ringside at the moment. You know, the new norm is that we're 12, 14 meters back from the ring. Normally we're on the ring apron. We can look around. You get a sense, you see the judges, they're handing in their scores. I don't ever remember seeing a judge holding a phone or looking at a phone in a fight when I've been up at ringside anywhere around the world. But of course, there have been many, many decisions where you don't see the same way. And, you know, it's I think first and foremost, they have to ask him, you know, how he got to that card, that 117, 111 card. For me, that was I can't understand that. But that's the second layer. If he's looking at his phone and he's distracted from what he's meant to be scoring in front, then that's a serious issue, and the board have to look at that. But again, that's not for us to speculate or commentate or whatever on. That's something for the British board, and it may be that it's, as I said, he writes something down on his phone. I don't know. I don't sit there and watch Terry O'Connor, judging a fight, and especially, as I said, as we're right back, we can't see. That's what their job is, to score a fight. Our job is to call it and put our opinion, or certainly Matt's opinion, is his unofficial card across as the former fighter. We guide people through, and people at home can make their own decisions. Often they don't agree with what we're saying. They don't have to. It's a subjective business. But I think the overwhelming amount of people that thought that last night Miguel Vazquez was a clear winner, I think must tell you something. And of course, the photograph that I've seen is it doesn't look good. But that's for them to look at and them to sort out. Terry O'Connor's been in the business a long, long time. He's as I said, he's a good guy. They're good guys, the officials. They've got hard jobs. It's tough. They've got a lot of pressure on them, and they I'm sure they try and do their best. But this one has to be looked at.
Just to obviously add to that before we do move on, Adam, since then I've seen Boxing News have put an article out with quotes from Robert Smith saying they are actually investigating Terry last night for the phone and obviously looking into the scoring. But yes, just moving on.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, Adam, what did you say then?
I said no. I agree. I heard that last night as we were leaving, that they were going to do that. And that's Robert's a very, very, very good General Secretary of the British Board. I've worked with many over the years. Simon Block and John Morris, and there's been some terrific people at the helm there, and with Charlie Giles sort of overlooking it. I'm sure that Robert would do absolutely everything which is fair. Obviously, they're his staff. There's going to be a he's got faith in them, and people can make mistakes, of course, and you've got to look at that. They're his people. But I heard that last night, and I think that's absolutely right. Robert's got to look at it when it's a situation like this where so many people are pretty outraged at the card, and also this fact that was he on a phone, as in not watching what was going on for a split second or for long periods of time? I don't know. So that's up to Robert and his team to look at, and I'm glad they are looking at it. I think that's right.
Just move on then, Adam, as I say, just with Lewis now on the back of what, again, it was a controversial victory, but he's picked up that win. There was a lot of talk beforehand about kind of where he goes next, and a lot of talk about him moving towards that world scene. One of the names mentioned was Regis Prograde. On the back of his performance last night, do you feel that it would be better for him to stay away from somebody like him, or in Regis' case, a lot more of an active and kind of aggressive fighter than what Miguel Vazquez is, that he might suit him better still? Is that your opinion, or?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I asked Matt that, I think, late on in the fight. I said, what is next for Lewis Ritson? There was a lot of talk about Josh Taylor a year ago at St. James's Park, and he said, and what I like about Lewis is he's very honest, and I'm sure when he looks back at the tape, he might have a different opinion to what he actually felt in the ring. And it's different, there's no crowd, and maybe he felt it was more like a spar in there last night. So, they'll look at it. It wasn't a terrible, damaging defeat or anything like that. I just thought he lost the fight. And there's nothing to really concern yourself that the style didn't work for him. So, they need to match him against someone that obviously suits him better, that's going to stand in front of him more. What is next for Lewis Ritson? How good is he? He was terrific at British level. He outgrew the lightweight division. He's got to prove himself, I think, at European level. They gave him a WBA number 2 on the back of a good win over Robbie Davis Jr. But is he ready for someone like Josh Taylor or Jose Ramirez? No, I don't think so. And I think Regis Prograis, while stylistically I can see the attraction of that, and I'd love to have Regis back over in Britain. He was fantastic value, and he lost that razor-thin decision to Taylor last year, and I think he's a great fighter. And while I'd love that as a sort of stylistic for 3, 4, 5 rounds, I think it's a massive, massive ask for Lewis Ritson at the moment. So I think Lewis, he's 27. I think he just needs to go back. I think he needs to work on a few things. I think that he's been out of the ring a long time. Maybe get back quicker, maybe take an 8 or 10 rounder, just get back in there as quick as he can, and then, build up for something like a European title fight, maybe against somebody that's going to stand there with him. It's, as I said, it's styles that make fights, and we now know with Patera and Vazquez, the fighters that are going to give him trouble.
Moving forwards, Adam, and away from this card, you mentioned earlier on, there was a huge show over in America which was headline between Vasyl Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez in that undisputed lightweight title fight. A brilliant, brilliant performance from Teofimo Lopez, seeing him come away with a unanimous decision victory. Just your thoughts and recollection of their fight?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant for Teofimo Lopez. You know, he'd said all along that he was going to take over. That was the mantra. His dad was been making so much noise. You know, they targeted Lomachenko for a long time. You know, I, for one, having seen a lot of Vasyl Lomachenko over the years, you know, the amateurs and at ringside in the pros, you know, you've got to just, you know, you've got to bow to his genius and what he can do in a ring. You know, he is up there. I think he needs to be down in weight now. I think that's definite after what happened last night. I think that Lopez fought a really smart fight. I think Loma knew how hard he hit, and I think that strength probably worried him early on. I thought Lomachenko he was way too late getting going. But you've got to take your hat off to Lopez, who didn't allow him that. And then when he did get going and when he ticked off a few rounds at the back end, it was too late. And then Lopez finished the show well. So, yeah, I thought it was a massive breakout night for Teofimo Lopez. A new star is born. You know, I thought Lomachenko would win beforehand on points. I thought he'd just know a bit too much. He'd be a bit too ring savvy. But, you know, it was an interesting one. You know, maybe, you know, Loma just showed his age slightly, but I think more it's a weight thing, and the fact that Lopez, you know, boxed a beautiful fight, and you know, he's obviously proved he's the real deal. I think Lomachenko needs to go down in weight. I'd like to see him drop back, but take nothing away from this you know, this real character. You know, you've got to love the backflips and the celebrations, and you know, he's great, and that's what we need in boxing: new blood, fresh fighters, and you know, it was sort of a slight change of the guard, wasn't it? You know, the undisputed now lightweight champion. Fantastic result for Lopez. Absolutely brilliant. But, you know, gutting for Lomachenko fans. I understand that. I think we all are, aren't we? But some point, you know, you're going to lose. He did have that early loss in his professional career, but you just thought no one could beat him after that. But that was just, you know, from the fact he was just too soon out of the amateurs. But, you know, these things happen. Styles make fights again. And Lopez he was just a bit too strong and big for him. And I think that power worried Loma. He just didn't get going, did he? He was very, very sort of lackluster in the first half of the fight, Lomachenko. And although I think he believes he probably did enough, maybe like Ritson, you know, they'll have to go back to look at the fight again, because no question in my mind, Teofimo Lopez won that fight and won it fairly clearly. No question in my mind, Miguel Vazquez won that fight against Lewis Ritson. So, you know, that's subjective, and you know, the judges are there to do their job, and you've got to put your faith and your trust in them.
A lot of talk about what kind of could be next for Teofimo Lopez. Is some brilliant fights.
Devin Haney.
Devin Haney, you got Ryan Garcia.
Devin Haney. That's the fight I want to see. I want to see Devin Haney against Teofimo Lopez. Make it happen, Andy.
I wish I could, Adam. I wish I could. Well, and you've also got the possibilities, as Teofimo mentioned in his post-fight press conference, of moving up to 140 and facing the winner of Taylor Ramirez. Teofimo is obviously huge at 135. Do you feel he'd adjust comfortably to facing one of Taylor or Ramirez at 140?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's what they want to do. They want to go up and become multi-weight champions. You know, personally, I think he should stay at lightweight and he should, you know, defend his titles. I think that the Haney fights there, you've got Campbell and Garcia. There's plenty going on for the next year or so in the lightweight division. I don't think there's any rush, but I certainly think that once you unify the Taylor Ramirez situation, and if Josh Taylor can win that, you know, say in 2021, you've got the unified lightweight champion and the unified super lightweight champion. What a match that would be. And if we could get that in Britain, well, happy days. You know, I really rate Josh Taylor. I think he's a fantastic fighter. So, yeah, look, there's some magic matches around the lightweight, the super lightweight divisions. And then, you know, you can go on and dream up at welterweight where you're packed with talent. So, yeah, there's a lot of excitement out there. And I think, you know, that's the weight to be in and around. And poor old Luke Campbell, you know, Luke, who I think I've always said is going to become a world champion. He's just got such a pitfall of dangerous fighters in front of him, you know, even like Ryan Garcia next. You know, these are hard fights for Luke. And, you know, you hope he can get through Ryan Garcia and get that shot. Because I think if it had been anyone else other than Lomachenko in that ring last summer, I think Luke Campbell will become a world champion. But it's going to be very difficult now, isn't it? Now with Lopez there, and, you know, it's a hard weight class, but it's an exciting one for the fans.
There's just a few more things from me, Adam, before I do let you go. With Tiago, once again, just wanted to get your thoughts with regards to before the fight. A lot of people saw Loma as one of the top 3 pound-for-pound fighters in the world, if not the best fighter in the world. On the back of Tiago's victory, where do you think that leaves him?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that the most important thing is let's celebrate a new star in boxing. You know, he's the new unified lightweight champion. He's taking over, and that's great. And I don't think we have to worry too much about whether he's pound for pound 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at the moment. Lomachenko, well established, multi-weight champion. You know, many people's pick, including mine for pound king. Terence Crawford, Canelo. There's many others that have got claims. Tiago Lopez is obviously proved himself one of the great fighters in world boxing, but it's only the beginning. You know, he's young. He's only had 16 fights. He's the unified lightweight champion. Let's enjoy that. Let's not worry about the pound for pound rankings at the moment. I think he needs to, if he goes and beats Devin Haney and then moves up and he, becomes a super lightweight champion and onwards, then, you can put him safely in those top 2 or 3 pound for pounds. But I don't think we need to worry about that too much at the moment. It's just interesting. We've got a new star, and let's see how Loma rebounds from that, because he's a proud guy and he won't go quietly.
And another fight which was announced last night, Adam, involving a Brit. We all knew about it, but it's finally officially been announced. Terence Crawford versus CrawfordBrook, November 14th. Talk to me about it, Adam. Is it too big a task for Cal, or can he still pull it off?
Oh, we've all got a massive soft spot for CrawfordBrook, haven't we? For many years, what he's been through, what he's given us in British boxing. He's a great guy. He's fantastically exciting to watch. How much has he got left at this stage in his career? He had those bad defeats. Brave, obviously, against Golovkin, and Errol Spence was a cracking fight in Sheffield. And, he's done well since then. But, is he slightly past his peak? And Terence Crawford at the very top of his game. It's a very hard ask, as we saw with Amir Khan, when he fought Crawford. It's a tough test for Kel. But, Kel is, he went over and he beat Sean Porter. He's got a lot of belief in himself. He's got a lot of qualities. The weight slightly worries me again, but he's got it all to do, and it's out in America. So you've got to see Crawford as a hot favourite. But don't write CrawfordBrook off. He's surprised us before. He's got a lot of quality. As I said, he's got massive self-belief. He's got big power. He's got a lot of things in his arsenal. And if he can hold himself together, and if he's in the right shape, and he makes the weight comfortably, and he keeps telling me he's absolutely flying, it's going to be a really good fight and a really interesting one. But it's hard to back against Terence, obviously, on form. But as we saw last night in many different guises, stars make fights, and CrawfordBrook is certainly right in there with a chance.
Final question, Adam. WBC for Mauricio Sullivan's come out and he said that they will plan on making a new weight category in between cruiserweight and heavyweight. Just your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been talked about before a lot, because the cruiserweight weight class, when Johnny used to fight, was 13.8. How he made 13.8, I don't know. But when it became 14.4, you've got that massive gap. 14.4, anything above is a heavyweight, And you look at the sort of small heavyweights, the likes of your Babbiches, which you think, could they get down to cruiserweight? And it's a bit too far. And then you get your giant heavyweights, your Joshuas, your Furies, your Dillians, your 17, 18 stone heavyweights. And that was the big difference with when Lennox came in, I think. You had your sort of Mike Tyson's around your 15.9, 15.10. You had your fighters like Zelko Mavrovich and those sort of guys, tough guys, David Tua. But there was the sort of quite small compared to the massive fights. The Klitschko's came in. So that, it became almost like super heavyweights then. So I think it's an interesting move. But obviously, there is something about the glamorous heavyweight division. So you want to keep that. But to have something in the middle, I don't know, it's interesting. There's a lot of fighters in between that cruiserweight and big heavyweight sort of, stature. So, so long as the matches are good, that's a possibility. But let's just see where we go with it, because I think there is something particularly special if a little heavyweight like Evander Holyfield can beat a big heavyweight like Riddick Bowe. So, that's part of the drama.
All right, Adam, we'll leave that there now, and I will speak to you soon once again. I believe next show is Usyk Chisora, so we've got the big one coming up now, Adam. But until then, obviously look after yourself. As I say, I'll speak to you soon. Thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
Cheers, Andy. Take care, mate.